Greetings everyone, IT2. Today I have finished the Crimson Campaign, Book 2 of the Powder Mage Trilogy by McClellan. I really love the first one. This one is about the same. The story is pretty crazy. You find out a little bit more about how everything works. If you don't remember the first one, you got these people that are powder mages. They're wizards that snort gunpowder, and it makes them stronger, faster. They can ignore pain. They can shoot bullets harder and farther and curve them around things. They don't really do a lot of curving, though. They can also put energy around a bullet so that it goes more armor piercing through things, I think. Something like that. And also can zoom their vision in and be like a sniper. Pretty cool magic system, but that's just the powder mages. You've also got the privileged people, which are, they wear these white gloves, which in this book you find out you have to, if they get ripped, you have to sew them perfectly. Which if it's ripped, how would it be perfect if it's got a rip in it? It's sewn perfectly. Anyway, they can snap their fingers and make fire. They can just slice up buildings and they fall apart. They're super powerful. And they can use these gloves to touch the else, which is there's this world, the reality, and then there's everything else. If you can look into that world, you can see this glow around people that are powder mages, or they're wardens, which are these things, the privileged kind of enhance people and make them super strong. I'm not sure how that works. They don't explain that. But you see wardens, you can see privileged, you can see powder mages, you can see people that are knacked. You have people that have just certain knacks, abilities that, it's hard to explain what knacks are. You can always know if you're going north or something like that, just like a little random ability. The one guy, he was a god, but they thought he was a knack, but he would create food out of nowhere. One guy never had to sleep, so that's kind of like knacks, the privilege, they can throw fireballs and wind and stuff around. Never really seem to do any ice. Maybe lightning. I think they do lightning. It's hard to really explain how they do magic. They're always one hand is playing a harp, the other hand is playing a piano. So they're doing shit like this with their hands. So you got Daniel Two-Shot and Tomas that are powder mages. You've also got that girl, Capole. She's the most powerful wizard in the world, basically. There's a thing called Bone Eyes. And she does kind of voodoo magic. She makes dolls of people. She puts blood and hair on them. And she can make them do things she wants. She can just kill them. So the last book, Daniel shot this god that was appearing, right? There's this god Adam that showed up, and he was making food for the whole army. And then there was this god Kresimir. That's what everybody worships pretty much in the world. But there's these other gods apparently. And so Daniel shot Kresimir in the eye, and he's going mad. He's going crazy. He's joined the enemies in this book. But he's not helping them. He's just there looking for the guy who shot him in the eye. He's wearing this mask. And why is my voice going weird? I hope I don't have COVID. Steve Sutton apparently has COVID right now. I hope I don't have COVID. My voice is sounding strange. So Daniel Two-Shot, he's going around trying to help the army because people from Kez are attacking from the south. And the generals are corrupt. They're selling their supplies and making money for themselves. They're calling retreats. They don't need to be retreating, and the line is constantly getting pushed back. And he's there trying to save his country, but he doesn't follow orders. He's a bad soldier because he used to be outside of the law because his daddy was the main leader of the army. So he's just he's always breaking all the rules and getting court-martialed and sent off to this other group, and then they try to recruit him, but he does something else and kills somebody before he even joins them. He grabs he gets assaulted by 5 people that are trying to rape his friend Capole, and he grabs one of them, just rips his jaw off, and kills the other for in like seconds. So everybody keeps assuming he's sleeping with this girl Capole because she's young and beautiful, or whatever. She's a savage, but she's not like black. She's got red hair, and I think she's pale. Like she's white with red hair. What kind of savage? Like the people from Deliv are black, I think. The people from Ado look like that, right? So they're white people, kind of French looking, maybe. So what the hell are they calling a savage girl? Like Pippi Longstocking? Is she like a savage? That's how I kind of imagine Capo. There's also this girl Nina. She was a laundress, and she's kind of like trying to save the son of the old king that Tomas killed. But it doesn't really matter. This little kid, he's just a nice kid. But they're not having kings anymore. They've moved past it. They're trying to like have elections now. And this other guy, Claremont, has gone off. You think he's defected to the other side, but he went to this country and recruited a bunch of people to help him as to like a way to boost his political campaign, because he's running for the next prime minister or whatever. So they thought the whole country was going to be doomed when all these ships start showing up over the canal. And they just show up to follow them down the river to the city. Thought they were going to just attack the city, but he pops out and he's like, "Hi, I'm running for mayor," or whatever. And then he like destroys the Kresimir Tower, the religious church, whatever. Anyway, Nina, she's with this kid, and they're all kidnapped by this guy, Lord Vadas, from the first book. And the whole thing with Adelat, or what's his name? I keep thinking of Adelan from Stormlight Oracle, or Stormlight Archive. Fuck, I can't even think right now. Adro? No. Adamant. Adamant. He's like a detective. He's looking for his family that have been kidnapped. He saves some of them. His wife. And one of his kids is still... Like, one of his kids got their finger cut off in the first one. His books are cool. And he saves those, finally. He keeps having to get money to, like, hire privileged Borbador, the last of the royal cabal, to help him. Saves his wife and kid, but then Nina was with him, and she kind of escapes. And then Borbador notices that she is some kind of privileged wizard or something. So he takes her and gives her like 200,000 krona, which is a lot of money. And she's like sewing his gloves up for him. And he's trying to get her to try on his gloves because he knows that she's got some kind of power, but he doesn't know what it is. And then he like slaps her in the face, and she like brings back to punch him, and her hand's glowing blue. So he's like, "You're touching the else without gloves on. Only gods can do that." So like they're hinting that maybe she is some kind of a godly character or something. So I don't know. That's pretty crazy. And then it kind of landed on a cliffhanger because Taniel gets the god Adam sends him with this invisibility spell into the camp of the enemy, and he's supposed. There's just one weird part where he's supposed to like find Kresimir and get his blood so Capol can kill him. And he finds a guy that knows where his room is, and it's up this weird architecturally designed tower where he has to climb. And he's like, "I've got this guy at gunpoint, I can't climb with him." So what he does is, this is where I think the writing got bad for a second, and then it came back. He's like, "Okay, strip off all your clothes except for your underwear. Now climb this tree." And the guy is like really awkwardly climbing this tree because people aren't really good at climbing trees. We're not monkeys, right? He's like, "Now climb higher up." And he's climbing with him. Like, you can't climb this wall with him, but you can climb a tree with him. And naked. And now you got him like up 2 or 3 tree branches as high as he can go. And then he ties him to the tree branches with his own clothes and stuffs a sock in his mouth. He's like, "There, good." Now I'll just leave and go climb this wall and forget about him. What the hell was that about? That's the worst way to like subdue somebody. He's like, he didn't want to kill him, so he stripped him naked, made him climb a tree, and tied him to a tree branch with his own clothes. Like, why would you even think of that? That's the last thing I would have thought to do. It's like somebody playing Dungeons and Dragons that didn't know what the fuck life was or something. Anyway, for a second it got dumb. But then he like finds the god, finds his bed sheets because he's been coughing blood. He needs to get his blood. He's trying to steal bed sheets. The god and his like servants and stuff find him, so he gets jumping out of the fucking river. He jumps out of the tower into the river, and the god just like scoops the water out of the river with magic and him inside and drops him on the ground. So then he's using this God commands, which is kind of like that show Preacher, where he just says stuff like stop. And it's like everybody stops and they're like obeys him. But not Daniel, because he's got Capehole's uber magic blessing like protecting him, and he just like ignores him. He starts punching the fucking God in the face. He's like, "What is happening? I'm like, God," and you're like beating the shit out of me. So then the God finally subdues him, and then they put him on this big stick. Which this girl Julene from the first book, they had her on a big stick also. They cut her hands off because she's a wizard. So it's kind of like Jesus being crucified, and now he's being crucified with her. And he manages to work his way free just as Capehole. He sees Capehole coming through, like, just ignoring there's this big battle going on. Which, why was there a battle going on? They're just kind of ignoring her until she gets to him. And he jumps down on one of his guards, and she starts stabbing one of his guards. That's what it was. So then she pulls out this bag where she's been making wax dolls. But she only made, like, a few. But somehow she was multiplying them. Also like Jesus multiplying the breads and loaves. And they were like hundreds of thousands of wax dolls pouring out of this bag. And she starts controlling the whole army with voodoo. Making them all fight each other. And like they're all like doing... The captains think there's a rebellion going on because half of them are fighting the other half. And they don't know what's happening. And then she's about to... He says at the end, like, my shirt's covered in the god's blood. Right, Kresimmer's blood. So she's going to kill Kresimmer, but she doesn't do it. So the next book, that's going to happen. It's going to be dope. But the god, he went out in the middle of the field with the other god, Mahali, which is Adam Reborn, the food god. And they're talking, and he's like trying to convince him. And he's like putting his hands on his shoulders. He like puts out his hand. He's like, "Let's hug." They're just looking at this from a distance, right? And then all of a sudden, Kresimmer opens his arms, and everything just glows. Like a nuclear bomb went off, and it's like he opened up the else to the world, and it blinded everybody, and it just vaporized Adam and killed that god. So then he says, "My blood's on my shirt, you can kill him now." But I left out the whole part about Tomas. Tomas's whole arc was, while this fighting was going on in the south, at the beginning of the book, somebody found a tunnel that flanked the army completely. So Tomas took all of his power mages and like 6,000 men, like 2 full regiments of the 7th and the 9th, or the 5th and the 9th, or something like that. And they all sneak through these tunnels with like a group of horses too. They all had like cavalry. They widened these passages through this tunnel, enough for horses to go through. And they're waiting for the army to attack the city Budweiser. It's like Budweiser, but with an L instead of a Zer. And they're going to do a hammer anvil attack. While they're attacking them, we hit them from behind. But what they did was, when they attacked, all these like new kind of wardens are so fast, they went up, just climbed up the mountains and just killed the people with the cannons and stuff from the front. And they were just gone, wiped out, and they were just taking over the city completely, instantly. So he's like, "Oh shit, we're fucked." So he turns and runs north towards the border between Kez and Deliv, which there's like a thing that can come back into their country the long way around. It's going to take them like 3 or 4 months. So they're being chased the whole time by the enemy. This other group, they send out like a couple of regiments and stuff, scouts and rangers and stuff, chasing them. And they abuse the fuck out of horses in this book. They ride horses until they're about just freaking out and about to die, and then they just kill them, and then they feed the army with the horse meat. Because they're starving most of the time. They're dirty and sweating and stuff, and the horses are tired. And it gets to a point where they start eating horses. And then he tries to get vengeance on this one guy that killed, he's like one of his last brothers is there, and he gets kidnapped, and he goes chasing after the guy that stole him. His horse is just like eyeballs rolling back in his head, and he breaks his leg, and he just shoots it. And then there's this whole thing where they take over the city. Like, the bad guys are dressing as the Adrians, and then they show up also. So there's like 2 groups of people wearing blue, so they have to put white strips around their arms, and like That part was kind of crazy. They had a lot of tactical maneuvers, like digging ditches in the front, and like fog rolls in, and everybody falls through the ditch, and they did that kind of thing for one of the battles. And there's a lot of like cool tactical shit with Tomas, and he didn't even use his like bullet powers that much, but it was pretty dope. Yeah. So next book should be pretty good. I really enjoy these books. I don't know. Maybe you'll like it.